to work for yourself, I'm going to give you an honest look at some of the pros and cons of what it means to be self-employed. I'm going to base these pros and cons around what I consider to be the 4 main freedoms of working for yourself. If you're unfamiliar with who I am, I'm Becca. I'm a digital nomad, meaning I travel and work remotely from whatever location I'm at. And this is my first official video launching the self-employment business side of my channel, so welcome. As far as what I do for work, I'm a video editor specializing in corporate promotional videos. I've been in this industry for 9 years and I've been working for myself since 2017. I'm going to be coming from the perspective of a freelancer or independent contractor, but a lot of these pros and cons could apply to any business. So let's get started. The first freedom I want to look at is the freedom of schedule. Now here, people tend to look at the positive side and the flexibility that you have to work whenever you want, which is true, and that is a huge perk. However, I would say the reality is working for yourself means working as often and as much as you need to. Especially in the early days, you can expect to work into and overnights as well as weekends. This was definitely the case for me when I first started out. I was working till 2 o'clock in the morning and over most weekends. The other con or negative is that you have to be self-disciplined. And that's a good way to look at it. Self-employed equals self-disciplined. This is where creating boundaries and setting routines and systems can be really helpful. The second freedom I want to look at is financial freedom, since that's a big part of why we work in the first place. Now here, I believe it's the opposite. People tend to look at the negative aspects of working for yourself. They think of the whole starving artist mentality, which again is true. There's a good chance that you're going to make less money, at least for the first few years, than a corporate job. Depending on your industry, there could also be a lot of feast or famine times when you go from having lots of work to absolutely nothing. Working for yourself means no guarantee of steady income. This has definitely been the case for me over the past several years. I've had times of lots of work coming in to absolutely nothing. And I'm actually going to talk about some of those ups and downs of my income in my next video, so make sure to come back and check that out. But during those times doesn't mean I wasn't busy, because there's always something you can be doing to keep yourself moving forward. It just means I wasn't getting paid for my time. Also, keep in mind that no one owes you anything, and you're not going to just be handed work. This was a stark reality for me when I first started. I had the mentality that if I was available, the work would just come, and that could not have been further from the truth. However, the flip side to all of this is that you have the potential to make more money. If you want to make more, you can focus on higher paying clients, you can raise your prices down the road. Whether you're self-employed or not, you can build multiple streams of income. There is no limit to how much you can make. The other thing that I need to interject here when it comes to working for yourself is you need to consider taxes and benefits. Now, this is such a wide topic and can have different pros and cons depending on your industry, so I'm going to leave that discussion for another video. Moving on to our third freedom, and this isn't necessarily the case for everyone who's self-employed, but that is the freedom of location. Now, the perks here are pretty clear. If you're location independent, you can travel and work remotely from wherever you're at, typically providing you have a good internet source. But perhaps one of the less common perks, and one that has benefited me a lot, is the ability to network as I travel. Traveling for me also means I get more content for this channel. And from the beginning, I've tried to make my self-employment and my travel journey kind of work hand in hand. For instance, my work allows me to travel, but traveling means I make more connections and more clients, which help my work. And traveling also means I gain more content for this channel, which I eventually plan to monetize and grow additional platforms from, which will then provide me with more money to continue traveling. So here's probably a good place to plug. Please like, comment, and subscribe, because it helps starving artists like myself continue paying the bills and bringing you more content. But let's look at some of the cons of this freedom, because there are a few. If you're constantly on the move, it can make clients hesitant to work with you in the first place, or hard to maintain those business relationships if you're not physically going to be in the area. This, however, is becoming more of an acceptable norm as remote work is becoming more common. There's also a growing number of online resources and platforms to allow for remote work. Ironically, I was asking clients before the pandemic if they would be willing to work with me remotely as I travel, and now it's become kind of the in thing. So that is the first and only time I will ever be slightly ahead of the curve. Of course, having this freedom to work from wherever doesn't mean you have to, but it is an added bonus if you can pick up and go as needed. The last freedom tied to working for yourself, and I haven't really heard others mention this, but that is the freedom of working with your own clients. And the main aspect of this that I believe is the most crucial is growing and cultivating the client relationship. Their perspective of your company comes down to what you represent. From personal experience, this is something that frustrated me working for someone else, was policies and procedures that I felt weren't in the client's best interest. And of course, this applies to all areas of our lives, but we need to make sure we do establish boundaries with our clients and within our business. This leads to a con when it comes to working for yourself, since being with a company usually means, not always, but it usually means you can fall back on that company if there are issues with a client who is testing the policies and procedures that have been set in place and clearly communicated to them. Another pro is that as you grow, you can focus more and more on your ideal client and on the type of projects that you want to work on. When I first started, I worked with whoever and whatever projects I could find, and typically at a fairly low rate because I was just starting out. But at this point in my business, I'm working on getting a very clear picture of who I want to work with and the type of projects I want to work on. And I'm also raising my prices as well as raising the value of how I bring my service to my client. Those are the four main freedoms I see for working for yourself and the pros and cons of each. Of course, there's so many variations and nuances within each industry, and you may work for someone else and already experience a lot of these freedoms. For me, what it really comes down to is the freedom to control my own destiny, and the only one who can limit what I can achieve is myself. Like I said, I am kicking off this side of my channel, and as I do, I want to know what questions you have about being self-employed and how I can best help you on your path to working for yourself. So comment those below, like if you found something useful, and subscribe if you haven't already. I'll see you next time. And I've been self-employed since blah, 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 blah. Now here, Pemble tend to lean towards, oh boy. Now people tend to look, I don't like how any of that sounded. Like I said, I'm kicking off this side of my channel.